Welcome back to the Links Golf Club podcast, everyone. Your weekly live show about our wonderful club in the world of golf. This week, we break down the week's top golf stories and we dive into the $1 million Internet Invitational. The whole world's talking about it, so we will too. What it means for golf fans, creators, and the business of the game. And then we will wrap up with the full What's in the Bag 2025. But let's dispense. I'm here with Coop. I'm here with Chris. Bossie's still alive, but she's sleeping. Gentlemen, how y'all feeling?
Good. Happy Wednesday. Stoked to be back here with you guys. What's new?
Chilling. You know, we actually have some sun out, which is nice.
Sun is good.
Some pretty gross weather for like the last week and a half in Nashville as we transition into fall. It gets dark at like 2 p.m. You know, that's the only problem. But other than that, life's pretty good.
Yeah, I was telling you guys earlier, I was kind of grabbing what may be one of the last rounds of the year, unfortunately, as it gets colder up here, but squeezing it in before the sunset yesterday, as you have to do this time of year. But enjoyed it. Happy to get out there yesterday, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's crazy. There's basically a full round difference in time. You know, like in the peak of summer, you can tee off at 6 and still finish a round of golf, and now it would already be dark for about an hour, which is insane.
And if you're talking summer solstice at Spey Bay, then you're talking like another 36 holes easy.
Easy. Maybe 54 if you're cruising.
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on how much haggis hamburger you have. That
right.
slows you down a little bit. But yeah, I mean, you know, fall weather, it's, you know, everyone's talking about it. It's like maybe the biggest golf story is just that we're transitioning into hibernation. But the good news is that provides an opportunity for us to change our minds, to change our equipment, which we're going to talk about today. But Chris, it also gives us a chance to change our bodies and most importantly, speed. You want to talk about the stack system for us?
Yeah, change our swing speed. That sounds great. Yeah, let's talk about the stack system a little bit. So as you know by now, most likely, stack system is golf's #1 speed training system, and they have the data to prove it. Over 60,000 users and 40 million swings tracked at this point, and an average gain of 27 plus yards in distance potential. We are doing a little stack system challenge this winter as some of us go into golf hibernation mode or golf training mode, as it were. But we're starting our challenge this winter to see who can gain the most speed using the stack system. So for those folks, if you have the stack system, or order now to get it in so you can get the stack system and get your baseline in by November 15th. We're going to be doing a little competition over a stack system training program over the next 8 to 12 weeks, and then giving away some prizes, giving away 3 million links coin and some other great stuff for folks that participate. So if you haven't already, definitely check that out. You can go to thestacksystem.com/linksdow to learn more about the product, to see a bunch of the great benefits and all the different facets of the product and the program that they have there, and to get 10% off using your friends at Linksdow. And hey, if you're a Linksdow member, head to the clubhouse, go to the benefits section and find the stack system. You'll get 20% off, a little extra benefit for our members. So really excited for our folks to be able to do that. Like I said, if you're interested in joining the challenge for this winter, make sure to act soon. I think you basically need to order today to make sure you get it in time, get that baseline in, and get stacking with us this winter. And I wanted to give a shout out to the stack putting program too. So we've been talking about the stack system, stack speed. They also have stack wedging, so improving your wedge game, and also stack putting. I've been giving the stack putting a go over the past few weeks. Have really liked it. Have you guys played around with that at all?
Not yet. I'm such a good putter. I don't feel like I need it, but over the course of the summer or winter, we're definitely going to check that out, and the wedge stuff.
Gregory doesn't need any help.
I'm guessing it's not about putter head speed. Is that not how it works?
It's not about swing speed on the putter.
That'd be actually kind of sick. I think what's the guy, Martin, the German long drive guy? I remember watching a video like a year. Yeah, and he was, I think he had like a 300-yard carry with his putter. So maybe something to aspire to.
Not what I am aspiring to personally, and not what the stack putting does. But so it's similar in that, kind of the stack systems shtick. What they do is they gather data about what you're doing, and then you use it kind of in a feedback loop to get better, right? So one of the ways is training on speed training. One of the ways is dialing in your wedge distances. One of the ways is stack putting. And so it's been interesting. I've only done it for a few sessions now. You can basically either log your putts while you're playing around. So, how long is it? What way is it breaking, uphill, downhill, and all that? And, log which way you missed and kind of all that. Or you can do like a practice session if you're on the green, and it'll actually give you putts like, okay, go find a 8-footer that's breaking right to left or whatever. So you can do it two different ways. I've just done it during my rounds the past couple times. But I wanted to give it a shout out today because two things. One is it's been really interesting, just kind of, reveal some tendencies, or it's still a small sample size for me just after 3 rounds. But the other thing, which is should be obvious, but but maybe isn't, is that literally just the act of walking off my putts to determine, what length they actually are, not just eyeballing it. And the fact that it forced me to register, okay, this is an uphill putt and it's breaking this way at about this grade. Like I had to internalize that. And I've been putting lights out in the past few rounds. It's like, it's one of those things where probably should have been doing it for the past 10 years and I would have been a better putter. But, just those little things, right? Of it makes you actually think about what you're doing and, be a little more thoughtful about your approach. Has been super helpful thus far. So I'm excited. I've just been doing it during the round. I think it's a little harder to do in the winter here. I have to find kind of an indoor putting setup with multiple breaks or whatnot. But that's been fun so far, and I've liked playing around with that.
Who would have known intentionality would make a difference? It's great.
It turns out. So yeah, head to thestacksystem.com/linkstyle. Get in on our stack speed challenge over the winter. Order now, get your baseline in by the 15th. Got some great prizes. And then, hey, check out the wedging and putting products too while you're at it.
Sweet. Thank you, Chris. Cooper, you got any announcements for the folks?
Yes, I do. In addition to the Stack System Challenge, by the way, if you're participating, you want to join in, if you have any questions, hop into the Links Discord. That's where we're going to be coordinating everything. We'll be getting everyone's stack player code so we can see all of our stats and kind of play together and do weekly competitions. That baseline is going to be 10 days from today, 11/15, last chance to enter. We're going to be giving away 3 million Links coins. I also want to cover the tree farm event, which is coming up, highly anticipated. Chris, I think we have one foursome left for that. So if you and a couple of buddies are looking to try out one of the most critically acclaimed new golf courses in the country, here for some fall golf, overnight, 2-day stay, let us know. Head to the events page. I'll drop it here in the comments. That is available coming up very soon, 3 weeks out. So really excited to see that coming down the pipe. We've got some really good content ideas, and that is sponsored by our friends at Golf Breaks. So we're going to be giving away major prizes, $200 credit for everybody who goes, and then a $2,000 trip credit from Golf Breaks to one lucky attendee. So that's going to be really, really cool. Very excited about that. Other than that, play golf, post your fall golf picks. It's that time of year, right? We're getting nice and cool. But that's all I've got for internal announcements. An external announcement that I saw caught my eye this week was LIV is not rebranding to Lixie, LXXII. But
never not calling it Lixie from now on. It's
Lixie Golf. We are now out of the 54-hole era of LIV into the 72-hole era. Guys, I know when LIV first launched, it was about the same time Links launched. There's a lot of drama, a lot of discussion about this new format. Everything is happening. Do you guys have any takeaways on the format transition? Like, what's your gut reaction to seeing this?
My gut reaction is I don't care. No offense, Lixie bots. But I would say that if I had to speculate, I would assume that this has to do with OGR points, right? Like the thing all along is that they've only been receiving a certain percentage of those, and that's hurt them for being able to qualify for various things. And so by moving to 72, it should give them full qualification, although I guess there's still a chance that the crooked WGR could still box them out, but I assume that would be harder to justify with the 72 hole tournament. As Christos is saying that maybe the team format is still 54 holes. Not fully sure, but it's odd because it's kind of like the one difference, and it seemed like what they were trying to do is almost like what baseball has been trying to do, which is like shorten it to get people's attention span. But it seems weird. I don't have another take on it other than just like don't really care that much. Seems weird that they're now just like becoming the exact same. I will say that like it from the way that they're framing some of this stuff, it also seems that they're trying to encroach a little bit more on the DP World Tour. Being that sort of global tour. I would imagine that they're caught in a really difficult place because like poaching people from the DP World Tour is not going to really move the needle on recognition at all, from like name recognition, outside obviously the guys that are already on the PGA Tour that I'm sure they're trying to still poach anyway. But yeah, odd choice. Obviously, like it got them mostly attention for being made fun of, lots of Lixie jokes over the course of the last couple of days, and then Lixie bots defending them.
I tend to think it's just kind of not a big deal, or it's not that big of a change. Just saw lots of people kind of dunking on them for, moving away from their 54 hole thing tied to the LIV, title and everything. But I don't know. It's not that big of a change. Everybody's used to playing these 4-day tournaments. So it's like, I don't think it's going to be a huge difference, and they still have some unique factors, right? The team thing, the shotgun starts, obviously the locations of the events and everything. I don't know. I haven't kind of dove deep into this yet, but I don't know if field size is still going to be an issue for the OWGR stuff. Because, obviously you'd think the reason they're doing this is trying to get, their LIV players OWGR points and better rankings and stay in the majors and all that stuff. But kind of assuming there's still some hindrances to that, but who knows? It's kind of shifting sands anyways, right? It's been the whole time. But I don't know. To me, like the 54 hole thing wasn't the defining difference in what defines LIV.
It was the name of it. That's
well, but I don't know.
But
do you think they named it LIV because it was 54 holes? I kind of got the sense that it was like a convenient coincidence after. No, you think it was
I think 100%. I think 100% that that was their differentiating factor, right? It's like the joke from Something About Mary, what happens if somebody creates 5-minute abs or whatever.
Yes.
Like it was like I think they very much wanted, I think their hypothesis was 72 holes is too much. In general, that means is like it's too much of a commitment for a viewer to watch. We're going to capitalize on better distribution for shorter time frames and capture attention with exciting players. And I don't think if it wasn't for the 54 holes, they would have called it something else. So I do think that was important. I don't know if this is admitting defeat at all, if this changes anything to your point. But I think that's what makes it so funny to me, is that I think it was a defining characteristic.
There is humor in it. But as it relates to the broader game of golf, I think one thing that I came away from the Ryder Cup feeling was that I really wished all of these guys would be competing in all of the best tournaments all year long, right? Like we've seen some dominance from Scotty and Rory and some major accomplishments. And but like, then you go into the Ryder Cup and you see, Rahm and everybody out there on the course. I'd like to see a reunification sooner than later. Like it's getting old. I'm tired of it. They're just playing 72 holes. Like just figure out how to fix this and get everybody playing together again.
Yeah, agreed. At some point, the good news is the LIV guys are going to age out and they wouldn't be playing on the PGA Tour anyway. But the implications on the senior tour, the Champions Tour, or whatever, are going to be sick. All right, let's move on. Just a quick touch on, there's actually some golf to watch this weekend. The Mexico Open is worth checking out. There's some names there. I mean, JJ Spawn, who doesn't love JJ Spawn? Ben Griffin's going to be there. There's a sponsor exemption for Luke Donald. They're playing a new course. They've moved away from Mayakoba. This course should be a little bit more interesting to watch on TV. Tiger, I think it was Tiger's first design. I think somebody can fact check me on that. But you're also going to see guys like Max Grazerman, Luke Clanton, Gordon Sargent, and of course everyone's favorite Michael Brennan. Guy might hit the ball 500 yards out there today. So this weekend should be fun. Definitely going to watch. And I think there's some storylines that certainly maybe not demand our attention, but maybe pique our curiosity.
My main takeaway is my dad happens to work for Worldwide Technology, so I'm wondering how I haven't made my way to this Mexico Open before. Come on, Dad, hook me up.
Is it still based in St. Louis?
Yeah.
I visited there. I don't know if it's the same spot as it used to be, but back when I was teaching in St. Louis, they helped out with some donations. And pretty active in the St. Louis philanthropic scene. So shout out to WWT. It's one of those companies that you have no idea what they do, but they're absolutely massive.
Right.
They used
perfectly
to
generic name. It could be anything. It could be literally anything.
Yeah.
Chris, you keep up with the stack system. Maybe you need a sponsor exemption, not just attendee. You got to be starting.
Yes, that's totally in the cards. Yes.
Make it happen, man. Just
Absolutely.
to be the contrast guy, right? We talked about this for years. You got to have one regular golfer out there just to show. It could be you.
Yep. Do you guys think if they change to only service the state of Texas, that would change the meaning of their name at all? Worldwide Technology. That's a LIV joke. All right. Let's move on to there's one other little thing that I just want to talk about before we get into the Internet Invitational, which I'm actually really excited to talk about because I'm an Internet Invitational maxi at this point. This is not a bit. But I did see one thing that came. There was a Golf Monthly article about posting a score every round. I did want to ask y'all what your take was here. So I think the meta point of this article is caring about score too much affects your enjoyment of golf, which I do agree with. The headline, the clickbait was around this sort of controversy of posting your scores. I will say, every single time that I walk into the locker room at my club from finishing a round, there's a big sign that says you must post your round within 24 hours of playing it. And with all the Yip Strickler and the net event commentary and everything else, is there any argument for not posting a round for y'all? Is there ever a time where you don't post a round that you play?
Well, I mean, I post all my rounds, but I think the premise of the article is a little silly in that the whole point of posting rounds and keeping an up-to-date index is so you can compete against other people fairly, right? So if you are not going to compete against other people using an index, then I don't care if you post a score or not. And it seems like no one should care, right?
Yep.
And obviously if that's affecting your enjoyment of the game, then don't do it. But at the same time, right, the gist of this article is, it's putting too much pressure on them. Well, they're probably, I'm assuming, not, going into a bunch of competitions. That's not what they're in the game for, which is perfectly fine. But if you're competing, you got to keep an up to date. That's the whole point of the game, right? And kind of the honor system, and you got to keep an up to date so you aren't gaming the system, and you got to do it.
Yep. What about so this might be controversial, so I'll say it. I usually don't post match play rounds, and the reason I don't post match play rounds is because I play very differently in match play than I do in stroke play. Now, when I say this, it's more so competitive match play rounds. I think that violates the honor system personally. I feel scummy for doing that, but I don't play the same golf. I also don't post my vintage rounds because I'm playing with completely different clubs, and my handicap would undoubtedly go up, which would be unfair the next time that I play a competitive round with my modern clubs. I'm at least a 10-stroke difference right now across those two clubs. Now, I should establish a vintage club index, which I want to do. I just don't know if I want to pay additional money to keep that index. I should, but I haven't yet. So are there any exceptions? Like, am I scummy for not posting match play rounds?
No, I don't think you are, because also, people can say pick it up, or, you're not keeping your total score in that kind of situation. I would also, throw out people who play a lot of scrambles or shambles with friends, match play, scrambles. Like, those aren't your scores. They're not solo scores. They're not total or complete pictures of the round that you played. I will say on this topic, right, leading up to Spebe Ryder Cup, remember guest, like, I was religious. Every round I'm coming off and posting every single score. My last 2 rounds going into fall, like, I'm going to post them. Absolutely. I just haven't gone into my Arcos app and transliterated them over to Jin and hit post. Right. I told you guys what I scored in my last 2 rounds on this podcast, right? They're public. They're, I'm not trying to hide anything, but I think, like, the urgency of it changes depending on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to keep a really good scorecard, but if you're a club member, right, and you're walking past the sign into the locker room after your round that says post your score, and you're not posting your score, and then you're expecting to play in a club event, that's, that goes against the integrity of the game.
Yep. Agreed.
Totally. Okay. But my main takeaway is, like, people play the game for different,
sure.
Objectives. And if your objective isn't competing and lowering your index, don't do it. Perfectly fine by me.
Yep. All right. So let's talk about Internet Invitational. So we touched on this last week, but I want to go a little bit deeper this week because we've had a chance now to watch 3 episodes of it.
Taking the golf world by storm.
I'm all in.
Yeah.
I'm all in. It is more enjoyable to watch than maybe any non-major, non-Ryder Cup, like top level signature event. Maybe what's it? The bit doesn't even work if I can't remember the name of the event in New Orleans, but at least it's team match play.
The Sanderson. Or no, that
was the other one that I said that I liked and I can't remember. All right, so I'm full of shit, but I love this. So let's first, like, contextualize what it is, and let's talk about it, because I know that y'all have also watched some of it as well. The stakes, it's for $1 million, and I think that there's a lot of people have been like, oh, it's pure because it's not about the money. Definitely about the money. Everyone there wants to win $1 million. It creates stakes for sure, but it's obviously different than the purses that you see on the PGA Tour. Produced by Barstool and Bob Does Sports, so 2 sort of titans of the golf YouTube industry coming together. They're obviously very smart with all these collabs and getting views on their different channels and everything else. I will admit that I'm not a Barstool fan, really. I'm not a Barstool hater, but I'm not a Barstool guy. It's not my vibe. It's not how I really like to enjoy golf. I will also say that I don't know if anyone else could have pulled off something like this in the way that they did it. It's filled with Big Cedar Lodge in Missouri, a place that I definitely want to get down to. About 48 YouTube golf creators, like a very diverse array of golf creators, ones that you've probably seen, ones you've never heard of, all with sort of different niches. It's a team format. So far they've played 2-on-2s. They sort of split the 48 into 2 teams. They did 2v2. They played 9-hole matches of a sort of a scramble situation match play. Then they did alt shot in the afternoon, which I'm so glad they did alt shot. And then in the most recent one, they also added a $4,000 per hole skin, which became very interesting. And then it's awesome. And so I want to get y'all's thoughts just sort of as a fan first, like, and obviously because I like it doesn't mean you guys have to like it too. So if you have negs to say too, please, by all means. But then after we sort of get that out, I want to deep dive a little bit more about what this might mean. Kind of get into Christos's point of, like, there could be some pretty big implications of the success of this, I think, in golf media.
Yeah, I posted this on X already, but I was surprised how much I liked it. Like, I didn't necessarily expect to, watch all of it, think it was great going into it. Interesting idea. I was curious to see how it played out, but I was hooked. I watched all of the first 3 episodes, was totally engaged by it. And yeah, I kind of had a lot of thoughts coming out of it. So that was my initial reaction. Thought it was really engaging content, great content. And, a ton to talk about there. But I mean, Coop, are you also on the bandwagon? Are you not quite convinced? What's your stance?
I've been kind of following Barstool since the early Facebook days, like 2011, I had a startup that was kind of competing in the same college media space. And like, I've always been impressed by Portnoy. He's had some missteps, definitely very public, media things that have been problematic, but that happens. Bob Does Sports. I was also early listener to, Robbie's podcast, and like one of the few podcasts that I've ever really enjoyed, kind of before the golf YouTube explosion. So like these brands have had staying power. I really like the way they're adapting. What it's doing for golf, I think, is really, really good, right? We talked to the folks at Callaway, went out there to the headquarters. Like YouTube golf is on par with the pro game for the impact it has at every level, including like OEM equipment manufacturing, right? Like it's a massive component of the golf industry now. And I think that this has been really, really well executed. I kind of was late to start, so unfortunately, I want to sit down and watch them all beginning to end. I rushed it a little
It's a
bit.
lot, though.
Yeah, like it's
not. It's like 9 hours.
9 hours. So like I started yesterday, so like I
Mhm.
didn't get to watch every minute of all of it. I had it on like 1.5 speed for some of it, and I skipped some moments. But I would say the production value is really good. Part of me doesn't like the heartbeat sound pulsing in the background of some of the putts. Some of that
Sure.
feels a little gimmicky, but I would
Mhm.
say the pacing is really good. The golf coverage is really good. Getting to see all of the shots is really good. And then my question for you guys is like, do you watch any other? Are you fans of any of these brands individually, or do you watch any other analogous reality TV? Like the thing that felt like too long was 20 minutes of the drafting of the captains and the teams at the beginning, right? Like I want to get into the golf, but I understand there are a lot of people who are big fans of these personalities and they want to know who everybody voted for captain and doing all of that behind the scenes drama. That part for me was less compelling than like
Mhm.
the actual golf coverage.
Yeah, I mean, I loved it because they shot it like a reality TV show. I think like you said the word execution. I think we complain endlessly about how CBS or NBC might cover some of these events. But I think that the execution of how they figured out how to do this, maybe they got lucky. I doubt it because they've been doing this for a very long time, is perfect for this format. Little things aside, the heartbeat, the gimmicky stuff, like they got to juice it up a little bit because that's kind of the brand. But the way that they made, like they made a specific choice not to have commentators. They could have very easily tried to make this seem more like a sports event on TV. They decided not to do that, and I think that was the right decision. Number two, they very specifically told the players not to engage with the camera, but to engage with each other, which is the opposite of what they're all inclined to do, right? Like you watch a normal golf YouTube video, they're always talking. They're talking through their shots. They're talking to the camera. Hey guys, like, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure they were told to do it. In fact, most of them were like, it's awkward now to play golf for us because we are not doing it. And that made it feel like you were sort of there. So much of this stuff like exists on parasocial relationships anyways. So you ask like these brands that you follow, like you get to know these people, whether you like them or not, and you have a relationship with them. So it really did, I think, like as much of a cynic I am sometimes, like it made me feel like I was there. It made me feel like I was observing this thing that was happening. Did the stuff drag on in the beginning? Probably, but I think like the overall approach of making it more like a reality TV show is to me why it landed so well with me, rather than trying to make it like the Creator Classic, which yes, the Creator we'll go into some of the viewership here. Like the Creator Classic, I guess you could say succeeded on some aspect, but like I think to me though it flopped a lot more than where this has succeeded, and I think a lot of that has to do with the format choices they made.
Yeah. I think my main takeaway from this was I enjoyed it a lot. I would say a lot more than any of these individual creators' standalone content. I'm so like just on your standard Barstool or Good or Bob Does video where, they're playing a match against each other, they have a guest or whatever. Like I'm pretty lukewarm on that, right? Like there's not really any stakes. Like maybe they put some stakes on it or whatever, but it's pretty low stakes, and it's not really about the competition per se. I mean, they have that element to have like a storyline through each video or whatever, but I feel like, at least from my perspective, it's less about that. It's more just like, watching these characters that like you get to know, have interact with each other and do funny things or, interesting things or whatever else. Right. And obviously, they aren't PGA Tour players, even though many of them are really good players, that, it's not about just seeing the best golf out there. Right. But the Internet Invitational, I thought had the kind of perfect combo of it added some stakes. And at the end of the day, though, I don't think that was it. Right. Because it's, I don't know, for any of these folks, it's not, for some of them, perhaps it would change their life or whatever, but they kept throwing out the $1.7 million number, but that's not what the winner gets, right? It's much smaller sums of money that each of them are going to get, and, so on. So it's like they added stakes, but I don't think that was just it. A lot of it was the format that you just talked about, Greg, or kind of how they produced it, focusing on the in-person or interpersonal interactions, not talking to the camera, getting to know people a lot more because of that, right? I think that's where a lot of the Creator Classic stuff falls down. It's produced like a golf tournament, and with commentators and everything, you don't get all the interstitial stuff about either like just describing the golf, describing the shots, their strategy and everything, or just some of the funnier, interesting interplay between all the people. But this had like a perfect combination of all of that. And obviously it's kind of crossing all the ecosystems, right? All the different groups of creators. And, you kind of see the interplay between all of those and some of the little dynamics, like within a group or, what was it? Like there was one Bob Does guy on kind of the foreplay team and one foreplay guy on the, Bob Does team, that kind of thing, which adds just more intrigue and other elements to follow and, all of that stuff. But
it's like
that was
Avengers Endgame versus watching like all the individuals one. Like there's a certain mystique to watching all of these universes converge, which makes me sound like I feel stupid for saying that I care that much about this. But it's worked on me, man.
Yeah. It is really cool to see all of these people come together, right? And I think it does require something like Barstool to make that happen, put up the money for it, and acquire the sponsorships to make it happen. But you have people who are huge good fans now, and I think what the other incentive for the creators, if you're not one of the Barstool or the Bob Does Sports guys, is you're coming in and you're going to get so many more eyeballs, and it kind of brings the whole fandom, these niche areas together. Some people may be coming from TikTok or Instagram, right, to YouTube, and now you're creating this kind of behemoth brand.
Yeah.
And
they've been testing all that out for a while, right? They'll do like when Phil started his channel, they'll first 9 on Grant's channel because Grant obviously had more subscribers, but then you have to watch the second 9 on, like, they're really savvy at all of this stuff. And that to me is what is like most impressive about it. Is not only the choices that they make to produce excellent content, but also their ability, because there's nothing holding them back. Like one of the things that like someone like Bryson, when asked about why he went to LIV, a big reason of that was like the way that the PGA Tour handles like NIL. Basically, it's like you're not allowed to like go off and do all of this crazy shit that you want to do to the extent that you want to do it. Obviously, there's some stuff you can do. But Bryson wouldn't have been able to start his YouTube channel if he was on the PGA Tour the way that he wants to. They still don't do a great job of allowing people to use video content on social, which only promotes the brand. Like there's just a lot of decisions as sort of a quote unquote old school enterprise the PGA Tour makes that runs counter, I think, to the way that people want to consume this content. It's like even more interesting to be in the context of YouTube TV losing ESPN, right? Like we pay money to have YouTube TV. I was not able to watch any college football on YouTube TV over the weekend. I was unable to watch the Kansas basketball game yesterday on YouTube TV because of this like decision making at a corporate level, when instead like this is on YouTube for free minus time spent watching ads. And it like very much feels like it's for the fans, right? Which is like another big like momentum thing in media, is that as all of the streaming stuff shakes out and seems to get worse, distribution directly to fans feels better.
Yeah. Do you think Bryson is upset that he's not in this?
Well, I had two kind of thought experiments that I thought were interesting to go through. Number one was, would Bryson being in this, I guess really any PGA Tour player, but let's just use Bryson, or any pro player. Let's use Bryson as the kind of influencer example. Do you think him being in the competition would have made it better, worse, or no different?
Coop, I don't know if you have it. I'm thinking about it.
I think better, but it also goes back to the question of like, and this is an inaugural tournament. There are no rules and it's all made up. But like, if you've ever been a pro, should you be able to go back and play AMs, right? Which we're seeing in this other question. It's like Bryson he's passed every other golfer in this tournament in terms of skill. And so to have one pro wouldn't make sense. I think you'd have to have two and make them the captains, right? Or something along those lines. But you can't, it would imbalance the whole setup and for the integrity of the golf, right, of this made up tournament, you can't do that.
I'd be shocked at the next one that they wouldn't be there, but I kind of like that it's not. Like I obviously Wesley, is a professional golfer, right? Like,
that's the thing. They're pretty close to it already, right? Like,
but I think that's like
Dalkey
it's so much fun to watch. Like, Brad Dalkey in the same tournament with the Duke. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's like the magic, and who knows if they'll be able to replicate this, right? Like, so obviously the question is like, how does it scale? Can you do more of it? Like, YouTube is still a business, right? Like, they're going to try to capitalize on this long term, and they're going to have to continue to get better each time. But and maybe I'll hate the next one for whatever reasons, but I think I'd prefer them not having current big name. Like, they could have easily gotten Phil. Like, I'm sure there was a discussion, right? They could have easily got Phil there. He has a YouTube channel, Bryson. They could have live streamed the whole thing on the Xander app. There's a whole number of things they could have done, but I'm glad they didn't.
Shout out Xander app for sure.
Yeah. I'm a weekly active user.
The only one, maybe.
Yeah.
My takeaway was I think it would have been additive, and also it's interesting that it probably would have worked. Like, you're right that he's presumably better than other players because he's better than most golfers in the world, and so it might skew off the competitiveness or whatever. But part of what makes this work is that they do have, Wesley Bryan and the Duke playing on the same field, and they can actually make it work. Partially because of the format, partially because of it again, it's like the stakes of the competition isn't 100% of the thing, right? It's kind of part of it's, or a lot of it's just the content. So, you don't have to have absolute competitive parity and everything, and they're still playing out shot and, everything else. But yeah, I think it is interesting to think about for the future when you could imagine like, what would happen if it was Bryson and Rory were the two pros in it and they were the team captains, or, you can think of all the different iterations that might happen, which sound interesting, sound, could be cool. I think that leads to my second thought experiment, which was, how repeatable do you think this is? Or like, if they ran this back 3 months from now or whatever, like, is it still interesting, or is it just because this is the first one? Or I don't know if you guys have thought about that at all, but what do you think?
I mean, Greg, I know you're going to jump into the numbers here and the success and viewership, but like, I think they've struck lightning. Like, they have the right, and lightning can't strike twice. Is mixed metaphors there. What they've done with this, the number of viewers they're getting, I think there's now even more incentive. We haven't seen how it plays out, how it ends. There's even more incentive for creators to try to compete to get invited to the Internet Invitational going forward. I do think that whether it's the exact same form or format, or if it's Bob and Barstool or whoever puts it on, I think that this brand will continue, and there will at least be a second one.
Yeah, I don't know if the second one will be good because you either have to keep it exactly the same, right? So what does a PGA Tour do? They every single week they have a tournament at a different location, right, with a different sponsor. Those are the changes week to week. Typically the same field, although obviously there's sponsor exemptions and Monday qualifying and everything else, but same cast of characters in the traveling circus. I wouldn't mind this being like a pretty rare thing. You know what I mean? Like I part of the reason why the Ryder Cup is so awesome is that it's every 2 years. Like, if they did the Ryder Cup every week, it would kind of suck. So like, I would love for this to be somewhat rare, so I sort of forget about it for a while and then get excited when it comes back. But obviously, if they're making money on it, they're going to try to squeeze out as much as possible. I like it feeling like it's not like it's absolutely probably the same astroturfing as TGL and LIV and all these, like, trying to, this ain't your grandpa's game, let's go kids. Like, it's the same kind of thing in sort of different clothing, but it just feels like they pulled off something that feels more organic and grassroots rather than forced. Like TGL, like I forced myself to have the bit that I was a big TGL fan, and I watched every single TGL episode. It's not as good as this. It's not as entertaining as this. It's not as fun to watch. And part of that is because it's just so fucking cringe. And yeah, like Barstool can be too, and all these things can be too. But again, like the reality TV component of it, it just felt more authentic. Whether it is or not, you could argue that, but like it just felt that way. And all of the rest of this stuff, like I think it's like riding this wave where people are pretty fed up with like the way that pro golf is operating and has been for the last couple of years, outside of, you know, some good things that happen every once in a while. So I don't know if they can replicate it. To Christoph, you know, great comments, by the way, Christos, but the like to your point, they're going to do it again. Whether it works or not, I don't know. It depends on the decisions they make. They make good decisions this time. They could make bad decisions in the future. Let's actually talk about some of the stats. So I was very curious of how this performs compared to other professional golf. Lixie Golf, a typical event from Lixie Golf, has between 0.18 and 0.3 million average viewers on like linear TV, right? The streaming, all that stuff makes it complicated. They would argue that millions of people watch it on streaming, but we don't share the numbers. But let's just use that as a baseline. A regular non-major PGA Tour event, it's about, let's say, 3 million-ish average viewers for Sunday network windows, right? So you kind of have to compare apples to apples because no one really watches, you know, pro golf outside of the window in which its peak is, right? So like no one's really going back and watching an event later unless you're a sicko. And then the Masters final round, around 10 million in 24, 12.7 25, which is the most watched Masters final round since 2018, obviously because the Rory stuff. So Masters is like pretty rarefied air, but the Internet Invitational so far, after the episodes that had launched prior to today, over 10 million total, and that number will grow because people will continue to watch it, unlike the other ones, right? There's no peak viewing time. So then you like start to do the math, and like I think one of the big questions is like where are they actually making the money on all of this? Like obviously they have to cover the purse, but they also have to pay for all the other expenses that they have. And so like with a low like revenue per melee of, you know, let's say $3, that 10 million ish can only be about $30,000 in YouTube revenue. And then at a high end, maybe like 60,000 in YouTube revenue. Now, obviously Duncan is a sponsor. They have other sponsors that I'm sure are paying money, but it's like one thing that people constantly forget is it is really hard to make money on YouTube. Which is why you see good like and NLU and Friday, like all these people who have YouTube presidents, most of their money comes from merchandise, subscribers, etc., not advertising revenue. So I don't know how much money there is in this necessarily. Probably eyeballs matter a lot to sponsors, and I'm sure a lot of sponsors are going to want to jump on to the next one. But it was interesting that like just the numbers wise, this is going to have more viewers just in aggregate, which is a little bit of unfair comparison, but in aggregate, this is going to have more viewers than any other professional golf event in the last 20 years.
It's huge. Chris, you're
muted, Chris.
Yeah, I do think, you know, the more apples to apples comparison is probably like one of the episodes to, you know, the single day viewing, which is maybe about on par, right? Like 3 million views versus the 3 million average viewers for a Sunday PGA Tour broadcast or whatever. And so but still, that's very solid, right? But I think I would expect that the majority of the income, at least near term, is on sponsorships, right? They probably had to upfront have sponsorships to cover all of the prize money and everything, right? But yeah. But even if, you know, if you're an individual creator, even if you aren't, well, you know, you get the potential for prize money out of it, which is coming via the sponsorships, presumably. There's some of this, you know, YouTube revenue. But then also, for the vast majority of them, I'm sure they're gaining a bunch of subscribers, which is kind of like projected forward value to all of their businesses. And that's, maybe the longer term play. But it's interesting though, because it's like, you think about the event itself, but then each of them is their own businesses a little bit, which is not, there's not really a parallel to the PGA Tour there, right? I mean, I guess, if you have a PGA Tour player and they win and then they get more, sponsorship revenue out of it in the future or whatever else, but it's much more direct and, less collaborative in that sense.
Yeah. Like, my fiance was looking up Sarah Winters last night, right? Just never heard, like, that type of exposure for some of these smaller unaffiliated creators is just massive, right? For golf and non-golf and everything else. Definitely going to be interesting to see how this plays out, and the incentive to participate is huge for these creators.
Yeah. And I think, to like your point, like, we haven't even talked about some of like the big stars of this, like Chaz. And if you haven't watched this, you're not gonna know what the hell we're talking about. Like, I do highly, if you're into even just golf business, like, just watch 5 minutes of this. If you like golf entertainment, I would watch it. But I'd never heard of the Chaz guy, and just unbelievable at golf. Just like and I was looking at his socials. You see the growth in his social channel just for participating in this, right? Which is obviously why a lot of these folks do it. And I'm glad that they added that. They could, like, to your point, Chris, like to your earlier question, they could have easily probably put in pro golfers. But I'm glad that you see guys like obviously everyone knows who Roger Steele is, but Roger doesn't do a lot of YouTube golf content. I don't think people know how great Roger Steele is at golf. Maybe like feels like the best right now, playing the best game of anyone else in a field with like former professional golfers and Brad Dahlke and everyone else. He hit a shot on the first hole of yesterday's episode that just
249.
Unbelievable, like just unbelievable shot. So you also like see guys like the Duke, and they bring the fun. He's sitting there like trying to calculate how many individual cigarettes he can buy with the prize winnings, or even just like winning a skin. So for guys like that, like part of the allure is like, yeah, that is life-changing money for him. So I think like the people that I kind of came away, I want to see Roger Steele play more golf. Like, he's someone who I haven't really seen that much. Obviously, he's on the Creator Classic. He obviously does a lot of commentary stuff. He's a fantastic follow on social media. He's incredibly funny. He's insightful. But
Link's member, all-around good guy.
Yeah, Link's member. Like, I was less familiar with his game than I'm glad I am now, at least. And Chaz, I'll be watching everything that Chaz does from here on out. But yeah, who else kind of stood out, like guys you weren't or gals that you weren't as familiar with that you're going to be following more closely, etc.?
I think, Riggs gets a lot of conversation on golf Twitter about his game, right? So like people are always debating whether or not his handicap is accurate and stuff. I like seeing Frankie out there from the Barstool side. Portnoy chirping that he never makes a big putt, and then he rolls, not to spoil, but he rolls one in, in a moment. So I think it's interesting to see some of those personalities. Would have liked to see, more of Bob playing day two, more of the Bob does sports stuff, but they're still involved and around and active, which I think is fun. I'm not sure if I have a favorite. I think Chaz was really, I'm on board with Chaz as well. Steele was good. Francis, I thought, had a lot of game. He's hitting the ball really far. That was fun to see. Famous from Game of Thrones intro music on the piano. I don't know if you guys caught that era of Barstool content. But yeah, there's just like fun to see these guys out here and gals playing the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Peter Finch also just had some game, was hitting some absolute bombs out there. But yeah, I think that was maybe my most, and that's maybe another takeaway from this is like, I do not have the time to watch 48 golf creators, like every single one of their videos. Right. And that's part of it, right? Is like, people tend to go to the most well-known ones, right? So they watch 4Player, good, or, what have you. And, kind of end some of the discoverability after that. but seeing everyone together is, kind of gets you exposure to some other things that you might want to follow. And, honestly, I think part of it's like I found some of the other less popular characters were a lot more interesting. Both like some of them better golfers and also just, kind of more interesting, engaging, unique, just from a content perspective. So that was kind of an interesting takeaway. And I wonder if some of that changes over time, right? When some of these a little longer tail creators get a little more exposure and can maybe be a jumping off point.
Yeah.
Which is interesting to think about.
Yeah, but I also think that's like another pro of the format of more of the reality TV. Like when you watch a pro golf event, like you're watching it to see obviously great shots. Hopefully there's some drama as to see who wins. But like I don't know that much. Like I consume endless amounts of content in pro golf. I definitely know more than the average person about the PGA Tour. I am in the top of but I don't know that much about the guys. And like maybe that doesn't matter, right? Because that's not why I'm watching it. But the opposite is true for this format, right? Which is like I didn't care if they hit good shots or bad shots. Yes, some of the good shots were cool and there was drama, making a long putt and blah blah blah. But you without like going overboard of like, deep diving and having like a sub package where they talk about Chazzy's, him growing up and talking about his parents and like forcing these narratives, they just let these personalities shine. And ultimately that's what makes them successful on YouTube, right? Is they're able to get a lot of attention because they have personalities that are interesting or controversial or fun. And that to me was another like reason these are all characters, right? They're characters that would be very difficult to write and to force. And like when you put PGA Tour golfers in position to have personality, the only person I've really been surprised by was Xander. I think he was on a Grant video. He was way funnier than I thought he was going to be. But like, I cannot imagine in this format watching Patrick Cantlay for 3 hours try to like manufacture personality. As much as I actually kind of like Patrick Cantlay, they're built different, right? They're focused on performance, not on entertainment. And that's another reason why I think this worked.
Is this where Full Swing is converging with YouTube Golf and kind of bringing this whole thing together, like behind the scenes? Obviously, some people on Full Swing are not characters, right? But some of them have generated huge momentum and fan bases because you have seen behind the curtain a little bit. Some of the personality of Keegan Bradley, especially around the Ryder Cup, that was consequential. You've seen some other people in Joel Damon, exactly, right? Who, kind of an envelope player who's now like a crowd favorite.
Yeah, I mean that we'll see how this relates to the Skins game, right? The Skins game, we're all from a nostalgia standpoint really excited to see the Skins game, and I think we probably all have like a lot of confidence in Chad and what they're doing over at Scratch and everything else. But like it's going to be interesting to see like if that's successful with pro golfers, like what choices do they make to make that an interesting and entertaining watch? Because I think like I always go back to with like the advent of YouTube and social media and everything else, and Conan O'Brien was talking about the impact that this stuff has on comedy. And he's just like, I have no shot anymore because I have a room of 12 people who try to write comedy and try to be funny. And we get basically one shot at it a day. The internet has millions of shots and it's an attention economy, right? Like for good or bad. I love going back and watching like the Shell World of Sports stuff. I love drama. I love golf. I love pure golf, but like, I'm conditioned to like focus on my attention being peaked and entertainment. And I think just they did a really good job. And I'm excited for the Skins game. But let's see what the sort of PGA Tour media industrial complex can do to sort of compete with this.
Well, that was the other question I was going to pose. Maybe I'll flip it around to you, Greg, is what do you think the PGA Tour or pro golf in general should take away from this, if anything, or like translate to their product? And I think it's a difficult question, right? But, and I guess you could take it to both the tournament broadcasts as well as the production of Full Swing or, whatever other content, the Skins game or whatever else. But I think it's tough because, on the one hand, lots of people say that the the very repeatable 72-hour or 72 hole stroke play tournament every week. It can get old and it needs to be changed and revolutionized and all these things.
You know what? Someone should do 54 hole tournaments. Honestly, I think if someone should do a 54,
there's an idea. But you know, on the flip side, I don't think just kind of like trying to take this and translate it to a PGA Tour event doesn't make sense. And it's, you know, I think part of that's because, like you said, that like the average PGA Tour golfer is a like highly refined competitive machine and not necessarily an interesting personality, right? Like that's not what they're there for. And the flip is true for, you know, the creators that are playing in this. So, but I don't know, but there's something there, and perhaps it's kind of what comes through in Full Swing or other productions, TGL.
So my question for you is, like, in Full Swing, we know who won the tournaments before we watch Full Swing, right? It's produced. Would you watch the Creator Classic, or not? Sorry, the Internet Invitational, if you knew who won the outcome of each? And I think the answer is yes. Like the actual how they got there, we don't know, but how they get there and the personalities and what actually takes place is entertaining. So like, you know, I think the most valuable person in golf right now is the chief editor of whoever put together these videos. And like they can name their price and do whatever they want. Like, if there's a product where perhaps it's something more like Full Swing, or if it's a PGA product where there's like an after movie of each golf tournament, with a lot of behind the scenes, I think that might be the sweet spot where there's something to potentially happen, because that's what Bryson's doing in a lot of his content. That's what you can't do on the PGA Tour, right? So if the PGA Tour opened that door a little bit to create some more content and clips and behind the scenes action, maybe people would watch like a produced episode about a golf tournament, even though they know what happened live.
Yeah, I mean, I think DJ Pyhowski of No Laying Up is like advocated for something like, and he used to work for the PGA Tour. I mean, he understands this media stuff very well, and that's something he's advocated for a very long time. And so I think like the takeaway is like some experimentation which they've tried. Like they throw the earbud and the guy was walking down the lane. Like maybe that works, maybe it doesn't work. I like the portrait that you paint, Cooper. Like I don't know. It kind of runs counter to like everything that the PGA Tour is, which is to like try to get as much broadcast time as possible so they could throw as many commercials as possible so they can make the maximum amount of money, so they can create larger purses, so they can keep people from going to Lixie. But like I think they need to try something. I think, to Chris, your question, what I hope the takeaway is that they have to emulate this. But I think the takeaway is like we should feel the freedom to experiment. That's easier said than done. Like, yes, you could like experiment and be wrong, and there's a lot of money at play, and there's a lot of corporate interest in play. But I don't know what the answer is, obviously. But like, I do think making players more available, doing different things with the formats, being better about showing the recaps, eyeballs are eyeballs. So like, I would certainly, I mean, I watch almost every single golf tournament, but I'd be more likely probably to watch a 20-minute package on YouTube of like the highlights and the lowlights of the tournament, with the drama really well produced, probably without any like, you know, overhead. I would probably watch something like that. But yeah, I mean, I think it's like, I was talking to my nephew who's 10 years younger than me, so he's even kind of on the higher end of like the younger golf market, but he was riveted by this. And I think like at the end of the day, it shows that like people do like watching golf, people do like entertainment. And I think I just don't think it's realistic to ask someone who's under the age of 30 to, over on the course of a weekend, until they get to be my age, which now, because I have nothing to do, I sit on the couch on the weekend and I watch an entire PGA Tour event. I think it's unrealistic to ask anyone under the age of 30 to do that. So you need something that isn't live, probably, and that is attention grabbing for this to work.
Yeah. The thing I was thinking through was like, even for me, who loves the PGA Tour, loves to watch golf, consumes a ton of golf content, I wasn't fully engaged in the last Full Swing season, right? It's like first one was super interesting, and then as time goes on, I think it gets a little less interesting. Part of that is because it happens a year later, right? Or kind of many months later, it happens, and that's not everything. That's not all of what the show rides on. It's it's a lot of it's the behind the scenes drama and whatever else, and that's why you'd watch it. But I think that is, to me, that's kind of the core question. Is like, okay, the Internet Invitational was very interesting. Will it continue to be so, or will it kind of become less interesting over time? And I think the tough part about trying to translate this into PGA Tour or Pro Golf content is I think the Internet Invitational rides on drama and controversy and and also humor, I guess, for things that aren't just the golf shots, right? The whole Luke Kwan thing, sleeping in, costing his team, blah, 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 other players getting pissed at him. In the last episodes, Portnoy, throwing down additional money-winning options. People have the option to choose these things to win more money, and the skins, and building up to drama and everything else, and some of the interplay between them. So it's like that's where the interest comes, not just the golf shots and the competition. And so to like take that analogy to the PGA Tour, the Coach Gruden speech, that was a fantastic example, which was riveting, by the way. That was awesome to see him work. But to translate that to the PGA Tour, it's like, okay, that's not what the tournament broadcast is, right? The tournament broadcast is specifically about the golf shots, and the competition. So they created Full Swing, which is, I think, supposed to fill part of that void, right? Like capture the drama of the behind the scenes stuff. Zach Johnson calling Keegan to reject him from the, Ryder Cup team, or, any of that interplay, the kind of ups and downs of being a PGA Tour player. But it happened so far after the fact. And at the end of the day, it is still, it's people that know they're on camera in their personal lives, and they aren't going to share everything, and it's not going to get the full kind of exposure.
They're also they're also brands that have to protect an image, which none of these YouTubers, like, their image is who they are, and they're still getting sponsored by OEMs and everything else. But they go into that knowing that Fat Perez is a fat guy who likes to talk about drink. Like, Rory's not going to say anything. I mean, maybe Rory's a bad example, but like Patrick Cantley's not going to say anything that pisses off capital management company,
Right. So I think that's the trick, right? Is like, you could probably make a really interesting show about Rory's equipment decisions leading up to the Masters, or like him like playing a practice round with whoever, like, before the Masters, or like his interactions with Bryson off course, or like all of these things. But would any of them actually agree to do any of that, right? Like Bryson maybe, but you aren't going to get the window into the interesting stuff. And that's like the divide they have to try and close, right? Because like you said, like all the creators, that's what they do for a living, is open up the window, and they're built to do that. Can you actually bring that to pro golf in a way that's more than what Full Swing has done, and kind of expounds upon it more?
And do we want that? Like, to your earlier question, do we want them to, right? Like, if Scotty's like talking to the camera, like, hey chat, what's going on? Like, this shot is giving 60 degree, like, he's not going to play as well. So like, that's what's hard about it, is like, this is what, like, any disruptive thing that happens is like, the PGA Tour is still immensely successful. It is the most important thing in golf. However, like, if the landscape is changing, and the question is like, what do you do? Do they feel like this is a real threat? I'm sure like they want to capitalize on it, but they also have a monopoly in professional golf, right? Yep. Sorry, Coop, I cut you off, Coop. What were you gonna say?
No, I think until, and we'll see how that changes generationally, right, over time. But I think until something like that is produced by the PGA Tour, we're going to see more and more dollars and eyeballs flow towards content like the Internet Invitational, right? And as a result, I may go watch a good video for the first time ever. So like we'll see how it plays out.
Watch the gauntlet stuff is kind of sick. Watch the gauntlet stuff.
I'll check it out, man. Like
Check
I'm bought in now. This is cool.
Yeah. The other last thing I'll say, and obviously y'all can keep talking, is like I think one other advantage we talked about, like live TV and PGA is very much a live format. One of the advantages that YouTube Golf has is that like every single night when I sit down, turn on my TV and open up my YouTube feed, there is a YouTube Golf match to watch every time, usually multiple ones, and I can watch them whenever I want. And I don't, it's a single serving match. I don't have to understand the context and the momentum, strokes gained, and all this stuff of how players are playing and who's in the field and who's not in the field and who left for live and who didn't. I just watch a 45-minute episode of something that's like not even serialized. It doesn't matter if I watch the last one. It doesn't matter if I'm going to watch the next one. And just like from a content standpoint, that I think is a huge advantage compared to appointment television, which appointment television is basically dead. And so that's like, to me, the starting point of all of this is that like, if what stood out to me is this wasn't just like cheap to film, follow a guy playing golf on. This was a full scale production that I think ate the PGA Tour and the broadcast network's lunch and making something entertaining for 3 hours. That to me, is exciting about this as a fan.
Yeah. One area that I feel like there could be an opening for some of this type of content on the tour is like, imagine if there was a weekly production, call it an hour long or 2 hours long, which is basically all of the happenings of the week of a tournament packaged into a produced episode, where it's, from all the way from like the Monday queue, so people qualifying for the tournament, all the play-in stuff, the pros coming in, practicing, strategizing, testing new equipment. Maybe someone's working with their coach on X, Y, and Z, or like their mental game, or all of the other ins and outs that you don't see on a broadcast. Then the actual competition, perhaps some of the interplay, between rounds, or like what's some of the stuff happening behind the scenes. To some extent it's Hard Knocks, but I guess I'm also thinking like Hard Knocks is just preseason, right? It's kind of build up to
well, they have an in-season thing, but it's like to your earlier point, part of what kind of sucks about Full Swing is it's delayed. You basically do a Full Swing episode every week that covers the preceding week.
And I'm sure that's perhaps tough to do on weekly cadence, or and that's ultimately the question that comes down to, right? How are you going to pay for it and all the people to do it and everything else? But it just content wise, it feels like that could be that's something that the tour does not do well today, I think, which could have a lot of interest and fill some of those gaps where you get some of the more interesting things, some of the drama, some of the things that are different from week to week, maybe. And you get in a way that's not, you have to watch it on Sunday at 6 p.m. to get the payoff or whatever. You can watch it anytime. You can watch it on YouTube, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because like ABC's Wide World of Sports used to exist because you couldn't watch most of the sports that they were packaging into an hour-long episode every week. You couldn't watch it. And so your only chance at watching, Pete Rose or, Roger Staubach or whatever was watching ABC's Wide World of Sports, and it had Howard Cosell, who was like entertaining and controversial and everything else, right? Then we got to watch everything with streaming. Every single sporting event I can watch. And that was almost too much, right? So like to your point, it kind of almost makes sense that like we've returned back to a world in which just like everything that I know that I'm missing is in one like well-produced. I don't hate that idea. I think that would be interesting. Cool. Well, we talked about the Internet Invitational a lot longer than I expected, so thank you for indulging me. I think both of you enjoyed it as well.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. We're gonna shelve the what's in the bag for later. It'll give us even more time. Maybe I have some vintage wedges from eBay on the way. One of the cool things about playing vintage clubs is I got 2 bags in here. But I don't like the wedges I had, so I spent $20 on eBay and swapped the whole system out. So we'll do that later and maybe give you all a chance to tell us what you're gaming right now, what changes you want to make. But to all the viewers and the listeners, thanks for tuning in. Let us know, what do you think about the Internet Invitational? Is this interesting to you? Is it cringe? Is it stupid? What do you think it means for the future? What do you think the PGA Tour should be doing? Do they see it as a threat? Should they be combating this? Should they be ignoring it? What does this mean for golf? One of the things in this club is we're all pretty golf sickos. So I think this is like pretty much right up our alley. Cooper, Chris, thanks for participating here. Everyone, remember, check out Hillcrest memberships. Those are available now. You can check out Instagram and YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe so that you can get updated when we post new things. We're doing a lot of Hillcrest history content right now, so you can learn more about sort of the lore of the club over there in Kansas City. We expect to do a lot more of that stuff with Spay Bay, so you can see sort of as we lean into winter work and sort of what the club might look like next year. Hit us up in Discord with guest ideas, hot takes, feedback, etc. Follow the pod, leave a review, and we will see y'all next time. Appreciate it.
Don't forget to grab your stack system. Get in the challenge.
Let's get fast.
Let's go. Thanks, guys.
See y'all.
See y'all.